here's Rabbitside.
My name is...
They made it a military base in, I think, like the 40s because it mimicked an area in Africa that they were considering going and messing up a little bit. And so they're like, all right, well, let's train here in the desert. And so they turned it into a military base and used it for a decade or two. And then World War II ended, and they were like, okay, well, let's get rid of it. And I think that was in like the late 50s. They dismantled this whole area and left just the cement footings out there. And that's why it's called Slab City. And then since then, it has just been like a squatter's haven.
Then, over the years, travelers, hobos, train hoppers, hippies have been coming through, and at least seasonally, people that travel through America will come. The population dwindles to a couple hundred in the summer and swells to potentially a couple thousand in the peak of winter.
Yeah, and that's people from all over the country, and I should say all over the world. There's a lot of international travelers that will come here, but mostly it's the transient population of the United States shifting around with the weather and the work. Mm-hmm. So it's like, in the summertime, a lot of them go to Northern California and trim weed.
Yep.
And so go up there and trim and work on the farms, come back down here for the winter where you can stay outside in the winter and smoke all that weed and spend all that money that you got. So.
Yep. Exactly. We do not travel. We're here full time.
Yeah.
We used to travel, and then we decided we wanted some more plants in our lives and some more books and art in our lives, and just living in a trailer full time didn't provide enough space for that.
The stability of having one spot to go back to instead of like, okay, we got to pack up our house, move it to another spot, set it back up.
Yeah.
So having the ability to be able to set up art and build things and have gardens and ponds that can get better and better year after year, that's what we want.
Yeah.
There is a trade-off, I guess. Like, living here is free, and that's cool.
And you can do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. You can stay outside in the winter, but it's at a cost, and the cost is the off-grid nature of this place, and then the summer. Like, a lot of people are here temporarily, and then they go. And for those of us that stay, it's not the same place. Like, if you visit Slab City in the winter and you visit in the summer, you've gone to two different places completely.
Yeah.
Like, our lives change. It's not like the same thing plus heat. It's everything is different. The way you live and like get up and what your goal is for the day becomes like to survive. It's almost that scary. But if you set yourself up like we did with a lot of shade, and we have solar for electricity, and
yeah, it gets better all the time. In the winter, it can get pretty cold, but it doesn't ever really get to freezing.
Yeah, we have stuff like this, so we're good.
Yeah, and we have snuggly stuff and puppies and each other to stay warm. In the summer, it can hit like 125, 130 degrees.
Mm-hmm. Consistently for what? Like, there's at least a 2-3 week period, right, where it's like over 120 degrees. It's not like it just hits that once and you're like, wow, that was crazy. Like,
no, it is that.
Yeah, it sustains that. Yeah.
We have to, of course, wash our own clothes, which we heat all of our own water up on the stove. So,
which is through propane. So, and that you can get at the gas station. So we have a few things that we have to purchase, like propane, I guess, and our middle tier of water. We have the three kind of tiers. So there's drinking water that you get in bottles from Walmart, and that we just directly drink. Then there's the middle tier, which is the closest town, Nyland. We got a guy that knows another guy, and he gets tap water off of them, and then delivers it in the 300-gallon tank. And so he fills our 300-gallon tank, which we use over the course of a month.
About a month, yeah.
And so $40, we got that month's worth of water, and that's for giving to the dogs to drink. We make coffee with it, wash the dishes, cook, clean ourselves or whatever.
Yeah,
so it's
wash
that middle tier. And then the lowest tier of water that we use is for the pond and for the garden and for giving to the chickens. And I guess we'll do laundry and stuff with that too.
Sometimes.
Canal water.
Yeah. And that's, so Slab City's situated between two canals. There's the lower canal, which is a farm canal. It's farm runoff, and that's where we pull our water from. And then right next to us, we are butted up against the top canal, which this water is highly protected. Much nicer, cleaner water. We never take this water because they will fine you $1,000 for touching that canal, and that water goes to
it's fast moving.
Water that they're shipping straight to Palm Springs.
To water golf courses.
Yep, to water golf courses.
So there's that fence blocking the canal, which the canal is then blocking a bombing range on the other side. So this used to be a military base, and then they closed it all down and kind of just moved down the road and opened up a smaller one. And this whole mountain range here, the Chocolate Mountains, has been an active Air Force bombing range. So there's drones and jets and helicopters flying around and just hurling bombs at the mountain all day. And then other branches of the U.S. military use it as well for like training grounds. They built a fake, like, whatever, little town, like it's got a mosque in it. There's little buildings and stuff, and they shoot and blow the crap out of it until it just falls to pieces. It's all built out of plywood. And then trucks come in with more plywood, and they rebuild it, and then they do it again. And they practice going into buildings and clearing them and all the ground level stuff that you got to do. But you can actually see it. If you got on the hill, you could see all these little. It looks just like looks like a town, like a whole bunch of little structures. They're just plain and white and boring, but it's there. And there's a fake airstrip next to it, and they blow that up as well.
Yeah, so there's regular explosions and gunfire.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of disabled veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, and then I think some just retired veterans. But I think a lot of them probably don't appreciate it, but we actually kind of enjoy being next to the bombing range. They're going to do it anyway, and it's an interesting experience. And they drop, like, cluster bombs and really big, powerful, fiery bombs up in the mountain, and at night you can see the flames and, like, the and everything lighting up. But closer to us, between us and the mountains, is just, like, this big flat area, and it's, like, they train the new guys there or whatever, and so they're dropping bombs that are made out of cement and steel. There's no explosive parts to them. So all it's meant to do is just drop, and it flies like a normal bomb would, and it hits the ground, and you see like a puff of smoke, or not smoke, just dust from hitting the ground. And so they make a pretty good bump, but they're not explosive. And we've had some of those land just on the other side of the canal. Like if I took a golf ball and hit it with a baseball bat, I could hit where the bomb hit. So like we've had bombs fall that close to us, but I mean that's why they're out here. They're practicing. They're not perfect at it.
No, and so if they missed by that much, it's theoretical that they could miss by a little bit more one day and blow up our outhouse or something.
Or us.
Or us.
True.
Yeah.
We're not that worried about it though.
No. But when they drop that close, it shakes the whole trailer. It's like somebody threw a tire at our trailer.
One of the main challenges of living here, especially full time, is we were told when we moved here that you're building your own prison. So what do you want in your prison cell? And then we've really taken that to heart. And what they mean by that is, I mean, the three of us go to town all the time. You're free to leave your camp. And we've even, I think, gone out of town for like a week and had local friends come. And
you can even leave for the night and come back tomorrow. We did a hotel night or whatever like that, and then we come back the following day. So you can go for 24 hours.
But if you leave for any length of time, and I mean, and that's not fully agreed upon in town. What that length of time needs to be. But your camp will be considered open game because most people do leave and never come back.
Yeah, there'll be a guy with a trailer and he's there and he's there and he's there, and then all of a sudden one day you go and the trailer's gone and there's pallets and other stuff that he had around it and it's still there, and then you drive by the next day and the crap's still there, and then eventually somebody's gonna get it.
Yeah.
So somebody finally, like everybody's hovering around watching, like, is Bill gonna come back? I don't think so, man. And then you go and you get it. And as soon as somebody goes and gets that first item, and then you pass by the next day and see that half of the stuff is gone, you go, well, that other half is coming to my house.
If it's game on, it's game on.
Yeah. So, like, once a free-for-all kind of happens on a spot, and some people will leave even and say, like, hey, I'm leaving the slabs. I've taken my trailer, my car, my this, my that. Anything left, it's yours. Go nuts.
Yep.
Free-for-all. And we've participated in scoring some of that stuff, like
when people die.
Oh man, when people die, they'll be carting a dead body out, as people are going in to get their TV. Like, you don't
It's
even
true.
wait for the body to go. It's just like, time is of the essence. Like,
True.
yeah.
And we've not been desperate enough to do that. But that having been said, I don't really think less of people for it. I mean, it's every man for himself out here. It's very difficult to live out here, and they can't use it anymore. I mean, I hope that, if in theory we stayed here forever and slowly one by one we went, that when the last person went, I hope our friends get here first.
Yeah.
So they can have our really cool shit to help make their lives easier.
Because we're not going to be using it at that point.
Yeah,
we're on toast.
I mean, it really is every man for himself out here. So
yeah, when we go to the range or we go whatever, we leave lights on and stuff. And it's just always good to kind of like make your camp look obviously occupied to the point where, I mean, it's obvious that we live here because this thing is a 1,400 square foot structure before chicken coops and gardens. So, like, you'd be pretty silly to think, like, I wonder if somebody lives here. But some people live in half of a tent with some rocks around it, and it looks like a pile of garbage.
Yeah.
And so a sign that says occupied is often the standard here for marking, like, no, this is a camp. You take some garbage and you make a clear line around a spot, and you put up a sign that says occupied. You've met the requirements of Slab City to stake a claim.
Yeah, and there are also a lot of drug addicts and thieves out here.
Yeah.
We have not had any problems with that, though. The only thing we've had go missing is a couple of hard-boiled eggs that we're pretty sure a dog took.
Yeah.
So, where you camp, it depends on several factors. How long you're staying. I mean, if you're just staying for the week, people will set up, just pull over off the side of the road.
Right on the main road, right next to the thing. And like,
when Peter and I first got here, that's where we were for a couple of weeks until someone invited us.
And often that's actually how it
further
goes.
in.
It's like you pull into like a staging area more or less, and then start trying to find where you could set your roots.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. So having accessibility to it, that you can tow your trailer in and out without getting stuck in the sand is difficult. Finding an area where the neighbors aren't crazy. We live in an amazing neighborhood here.
We're kind of off to the side, a little bit in the outskirts.
Yeah, we have a lot of full-timers. The people in front of us and next to us stay all year and work really, really hard. So we're lucky to be in that neighborhood. But my advice for finding a spot in Slab City is, if you don't like your neighbors, move. You don't own the land.
Plenty of spots.
And a lot of these people are crazy. So, I mean, it's not really worth potentially losing your life over, or having your camp burned down, or becoming an enemy of the neighborhood because now someone's spreading rumors about you because you've made an enemy.
Just move.
So,
pick a new
if
spot.
if you're not getting along with the people around you, go somewhere else. I very strongly advise that here. And then also, don't cordon off more than you feel comfortable defending.
Right. Yeah. If you can't see all corners of your camp and you can't feasibly, keep that safe or whatever, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
Like
don't bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah. But then setting up, like say you show up to Slab City and you find a seemingly vacant area. There's an open spot. So you pull up with your trailer or whatever you have. You get out, you stretch, you look around, and you'll see some camps nearby. And so if one of those camps has a guy out there looking at you like you're doing something very wrong, like maybe they don't want you to camp there. So go talk to that guy.
Yeah,
hey man, I'm thinking of staying in Slab City for like a month. Is it cool if I camp over in this spot? And then he's like, no, that's my buddy's spot. He just went to Walmart for the day. And you go, oh, all right, cool. Is there anywhere, and just ask around mostly, because people in the area are going to know what's vacant and what isn't. And a lot of these people come out here to be secluded, and you don't want you're right here and someone posting up right next to you, some complete stranger, and he's got 5 dogs and they're savage. And
so again, none of us own
Keeping
the
space.
land, and we don't really have a right to tell people where they can and can't be.
It's
But
a
as a
courtesy
general
thing.
courtesy out here, we try to, if you want to set up somewhere, ask all the people around you how they feel about it. Let them know what your intentions for the area are.
Yeah, exactly.
And more often than not, they'll be thrilled to have you.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
just as a courtesy, make sure you're not infringing on on their space.
The way we look at it here too is like somebody is going to move in next to you. Like if there's an open spot, someone will occupy it, and you're not going to know them. So if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm thinking of occupying that spot over there," and you kind of like up and down them, and you're like, "Hey, you seem kind of cool and normal. All right, yeah, do it." Because now, bam, that spot is occupied, and you don't have to worry about who's going to suddenly move in there the next day or something. And
That's actually exactly why we're in this spot, because they asked us if we would move over here. We're basically their guard dogs.
yeah, we're their wall. Yeah.
And then
Because we're slightly more menacing than they will be often. And then, like, yeah, we try to put our more menacing friends even further on the other side of us. Yeah. So it's like a triple layer of defense.
Yep, exactly.
We're bunnies. And we make stuff awesome.
So yeah, at our camp, we call ourselves Rabbitside because when Peter and I first showed up, just to help people remember our names, we introduced ourselves as Jessica Rabbit and Peter Rabbit. And then just kind of colloquially would say, hey,
You'd
if
like
you
invite
wanna...
me over or whatever, like, why don't you come chill Rabbitside?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like,
And then ended up
Became
deciding
a
to
word.
kind of brand it that way.
Yeah.
A lot of people are out here to see how little they can live with, or how minimal they can make their lives.
yeah.
And we actually are almost here for the opposite reason. Like I said, we were tired of only having what we could have in a trailer. Peter and I had our whole lives in storage in Illinois, and we missed our stuff. And so we decided to kind of combine the worlds and stay homeless, but bring all of our worldly possessions out to the desert.
Yeah.
And so around that, we're just trying to build kind of we call it our like botanical art palace.
Yeah.
We have acquired how many birds? Chickens we have.
We got 18 chickens, 4 ducks.
4 ducks.
We're breeding crickets. We're raising bees now. Raising ladybugs to eat aphids.
Ladybugs.
Like the chickens are all rescues from other places in the slabs.
Yep.
People were already owning chickens out here, just not necessarily very well in some cases. So we built coops, and bit by bit, people were like, "Oh, can you guys rescue these chickens? Can you take these chickens?" And so we just kept expanding that capability, and now we're up to 18, I think, like I said, and 4 duckies.
Yeah, our birds have an automated mister system, so it's hard to keep birds alive out here in the summer because of the heat.
Yeah, or dogs. Yeah.
But ours do okay because they get misted.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I like to think of it as if this place were... Slab City's kind of like post-apocalyptic or whatever. It looks like everything just burned down and this is all that's left, and we're just pulling in the trash and trying to make lives real again. And so I feel like our house was at some point an art gallery or something, or like this really weird eclectic oddities shop that had a small greenhouse growing in the corner, but since it had been abandoned, the glass had fallen out of the greenhouse and all the plants had just like exploded out with growth, and they're covering every single corner. And so we want to have books and art and all this awesome stuff everywhere, but then you just reach through here and pull out a tomato and take a bite out of it, and there's dragon fruit hanging from the ceiling, and like...
Yeah, you see a book you want to check out, and you potentially have to pull back vines to access
Yeah,
it.
get some bugs off of it and stuff, and like... Yeah, so like you got to push back the leaves to come into our house, because every single leaf is an air conditioner, and it's cooling the air just directly around itself. So if we have 400,000 of those, it just makes sense that that's going to keep us cooler.
Yeah,
So
and that's quite ambitious here in the desert, but we do it here because it's the only place we know of where we can do it for free and build it out of whatever the hell we want to.
yeah, no permits.
No permits, no building codes. As of yet, nobody's going to tell us not to. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Peter works at Walmart. We're doing this on one income. We were doing it on no income.
No incomes, yeah.
For quite a while.
We're selling art and eggs at the road, and that was okay for a bit.
And then we had to ask for help getting dog food. And when we were not able to feed our own animals,
We were like, okay, no, that's not good.
that was not acceptable to us. That was Peter's the best candidate for it.
Just
Ryan
called
and I don't-
Walmart every day until they were like, fine, just work here. Stop
It's
calling
true.
us.
It's
Yeah.
true.
He's like the only one that doesn't speak Spanish in that entire Walmart. Yeah.
He-
They actually use the radios and talk in Spanish on the radios. That's because every single person there just speaks Spanish mostly. So, But they're also paying for him to learn Spanish.
Yep, that's
pretty
true.
cool. Yeah. A lot of the gardens here we planted last year when we started this, so most of what you see actually survived the summer, which is good to know. 75% of what we had died, and that was how we learned what plants survive and which ones don't. And it's pretty obvious. It's like aloe and cactus like it. Everything else hates it. But we managed to keep a vegetable garden alive all summer as well, and that kept shaded. And so we have tomatoes and sugarcane and herbs and peppers and a pomegranate tree. A couple chickens over there that eat the bugs that come out of the garden. And then the garden part kind of continues through the whole thing. The idea is that we're trying to just build this wooden skeleton over top of our trailer, our actual house. It's kind of like a secondary house to take the heat on the outside of it, but on the inside to be completely filled with plants and art. And so the art part is to make us happy, and the plants part is actually to keep us cool. So we're currently not focusing on growing food crops necessarily. We're focusing on growing climate crops. So we have vines that are growing all over the place, and we've started to get some really big, broad-leafed plants that can just act as little tiny air conditioners for us. So like this thing here is a $20 vine, but it's going to cover this whole section of this house. So like $20 to completely shade and cool ourselves sounds like a pretty good investment, you know. It does take water, but the more we plant and the more we grow, the less it's going to evaporate, the less we'll actually need to water. So at some point you meet a tipping point where you keep increasing the plants and you keep increasing the water, and then all of a sudden things start to get easier for you. And the plants do a really good job of holding on to that water and delegating it to who gets it and everything. It's currently not running right now. I turned it off because it's a cloudy day, but we have a pond, and there's goldfish in here and duckweed, and all the filtration for the pond is natural, so it's just, we keep adding things like snails and clams and plants to clean the water that we get from the canal. And then this water here gets cycled around. It's plumbed all the way up, so the entire structure has plumbing and valves, and they're all operated by a microcontroller. So we're trying to automate the watering and the misting and the climate control of this so that we don't have to be dependent on to remember. You know, like if the chickens needed misting every hour, but I fell asleep, you know, and you wake up 3 hours later and you go, oh, okay, the chickens are all dead. Whoops, from having a nap, you know. So it seems a little overkill to like, oh, we got this little tiny computer and valves and it's all automated and stuff. And but it's actually not overkill because it's like less kill, you know. It's something else that's keeping track of that for us, and we have so much to keep track of in the summer. The whole thing is just staying alive. And this painting was probably like one of our best purchases, because in the middle of the summer it's like 2% humidity, and you just stare at this thing and it just makes you feel damp. This is where we put all the birds. It kind of doesn't make sense, you would think, to put like 20 chickens and ducks right next to your trailer. It's only 8 feet between the two, but we do everything we can to keep it very clean and to clean up the poop every day and stuff. Sorry I didn't do it today yet. And so the chicken coops don't really produce much of a smell. They produce a lot of noise, but this is the coolest place, and so to keep them alive, it makes sense to share all the effort that we're putting into keeping ourselves cool, and to also spread that to the chickens. So they have a misting system that's automated, like I was saying, and there's a wooden roof above us here instead of shade cloth like on the other side, and the solid wood created a much cooler environment back here. This is kind of our utility space, so it's not very pretty. And every single spot in this place is actually under construction. In the summertime, we just lay there and try to stay alive. And in the wintertime, it's just constant go, 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 build, 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 because the time is ticking when you can't do it anymore. You have like an hour in the morning when the sun just comes up, and an hour or so as it's going down when you can do stuff in the summer. Otherwise, nothing gets done. It's just live mode. Yeah, everybody knows that I'm the food guy, so they're pretty good at getting noisy when I come in. But all these chickens, when we got them, were almost completely naked. They had no feathers. Like this one here, I named David Copperfield, because she looks just like David Copperfield. David Copperfield, look. Yeah. But that one there was attacked by a dog, and so when we got her, she had a big cut down her back. So some of them do white eggs. Like, I love the color variant in all the eggs that we have here. And then we'll wash them a bit, like this hay and any poop and stuff will get off, but just lightly in the pond. I just use my thumb, and all the goldfish will actually eat all this stuff that falls off of the eggs, so they love it. And I just sit there and hand clean each one so that they maintain their outer protective coating. So these eggs at room temperature are good for a month. Like, it's not like store-bought eggs where you have to replace them often. So yeah, because of that, I got 4 dozen down here, a dozen duck eggs. There's probably another 3 in there that I haven't got. Just got this one. And all that stuff, we now take those plus vegetables, dried dates. We've been baking fresh bread, and so we take all that stuff, and then I put it on my bike, and then I bike around Slab City with a little bell, and I try to get people to buy eggs and bread.
Bike.
Yeah. Garbage not included, but this is my delivery bicycle.
It's a good idea.
There was a camp in Slab City that, again, like most people did, they left for the season. They said, hey, I have some junk at the camp. Anybody wants it? Go crazy. And so we went and grabbed some pallets and some whatever else. And there was some bicycle parts, like the frame and some wheels. And we just kind of grabbed the whole pile and brought it. And for months it sat out there. And one day I was like, I mean, how much of a working bike do we have, though? And so I started assembling the parts. It was a whole bike. Like, we just had to put tubes in it, and the damn thing works. So I started taking some little pieces of angled aluminum and some other pieces of metal and copper wire and rivets and banding and nails, and just kind of junked together this bicycle. And from there, I've added the basket. And so this is what I put. Actually, there's dried dill in here right now. Look at that. So this is what we put all of our produce and the eggs in. I got the foam to keep them from bouncing around. And I just drive this thing around. I try to do it every 3 days or so. I want a bell so that I can kind of like Pavlovian condition all of Slab City to know, like, that you hear that sound, like, oh, that's the egg guy, you know? And so the fresh bread actually gets a lot more sales than the eggs now. People, once they hear like, oh wait, fresh bread, and you just break off a small piece and kind of give it to people, and like, you'll be back. Yeah, like a drug dealer with bread does. We were also given a bunch of dried dates. Or not dried dates, I guess we were given just dates. And then we pitted all of those, put them in a solar dryer that we made, and then now have these little packages of dried dates. So I like trying to make the packaging kind of cute. And I feel like if somebody just hands you a handful of dates, or they hand you a nice little paper bag with a piece of twine on it, like one has a little more appeal than the other. But yeah, you can do just about anything with garbage. You know, this whole entire place is just like, how can we use this? I have 10 of these things. Like, what can I do with that? And we try to find ways to utilize everything and every drop of water that before it hits the ground, ultimately, we try to make it bounce off as many things before it hits the ground. And then when it hits the ground, we put hay on top of that to try to stop it from evaporating. So you just do every possible thing to stretch every possible thing. Even the seashells that are in the ground here and the stones that we sweep the ground, the sand and seashells and stones that we take out of here, I dump in the driveway to fill the ruts. So over time, there was a couple ruts with roots sticking out of them, and it was just awful. And I just keep taking sand and pouring them in the spots, and Peter drives in and out every day with the car and compacts it, and the driveway's perfect now. It was just from the detritus, the removal of garbage, essentially dirt from in here, and there's still a purpose for it. So I like that part.
Seriously collecting thrift store art for about 20 years. I have significantly more than is actually out. I've basically got one of these storage crates full. I like colorful, tacky, kitschy. I like vintage animal things. I find all sorts of fascinating. So this, for example, it's an award for selling makeup. Avon Lady Award. I got it for $2.88. It's amazing. Like a golden Mary Poppins. Who doesn't want this? $2.88. So, yeah, when Peter and I went on the road, that was my one stipulation, is I'm not getting rid of my collection. It means the world to me. And then when we decided to stay, I immediately said, okay, well, my life is full of this stuff, so let's go get it. And we did, and I've been slowly but surely finding places for it on the walls and in the nooks and crannies, and it brings me a lot of joy. Nothing makes me more uncomfortable than a blank room. It absolutely makes my skin crawl. So I like to express who I am through silly and very cheap things from thrift stores. So yeah, that's kind of where my my aesthetic eye comes in, and it's all thrift art, but I again take the collection very seriously. I think of it really truly as a curated collection.
Some is one of a kind.
Yeah, and some of it's one of a kind. Do you want to see my favorite piece? I had this for years, and it's very asymmetrical. I had it for a very long time before I noticed this. So check this out. Right? How cool is that? So, John Corona is what it says, I think, down here, has a very cool grandmother. And yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces. Like I said, I had it for years before I noticed that. And that to me that's the magic of collecting thrift art, because you're collecting things from other people's lives without context. And yeah, sometimes there's hidden treasures in there.
Okay.
So you can find us at Rabbitside Camp.
Rabbitside Camp on Instagram.
On Instagram, which
then,
I manage.
That's true. And then YouTube is this is youtube.com/rabbitside. You could also just look up Rabbitside and you'd find us. And we do videos about a lot of the projects that we do here. Mm-hmm. And I'll just kind of set up the camera and then start building something and then edit it together. So it gives you kind of an insight into how some of the stuff is done.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, at our
And
camp
then
here
if
in
you
Slab
ever,
City.
yeah, if you ever come to Slab City, we got a sign out by the road. Stop by and see us. We love to have visitors.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the main reasons that we're here, because we could do this other places maybe, but we wouldn't meet the people that we're meeting here. So.
No, exactly. Yeah, it puts you out there, and it forces you into opportunities. Now we build this thing, we let people in. We're going to meet so many people, and you just have so many opportunities, and it's interesting.
So yeah, come meet us.
Yeah.